Hi students, welcome to our session on research writing. Today, we are going to talk about biostatistics. Biostatistics is very important in our research writing. It is very helpful in making our data understandable, relatable, and convenient for our audience. Moving forward, here is the concept and definition of biostatistics. Biostatistics is an innovative field that involves the design, analysis, and interpretation of data for studies in public health and medicine. This involves operations, procedures, and statistical tools that will help interpret the data sets that we have gathered in our population, in our area, or from the research problem that we are trying to measure. As the picture says, if you torture the data long enough, it will confess to anything. So just like if you will process your data with different statistical tools, given that our data is accurate and precise, it will provide or it will give us something relevant that can be contribute or can be a good contribution to our field. Moving forward, statistics is a form of mathematical analysis that uses quantified models, representations, and synapses for a given set of experimental data or real-life studies. So keep in mind that it is only quantitative data that can be treated with statistics. Your qualitative data is processed using themes and codings and other processes. So statistics is applicable or an analysis that is used for quantitative data only. Statistics studies methodologies to gather, review, analyze, and draw conclusions from the data. So in other words, statistics help us to test our hypotheses. So every research, every experiment, before we proceed to our methods or to our procedures, we have to draw our hypothesis first. And it can be tested or it can be proven by the use of our mathematical analysis using statistical tools. So we have two types of statistical analysis. It's the descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. So descriptive analysis or descriptive statistics is the term given to the analysis of data that helps describe, show, or summarize data in a meaningful way, such that, for example, patterns might emerge from the data. So descriptive statistics do not, however, allow us to make conclusions beyond the data. For example, percentage or mean does not give us any reliable conclusion about our data sets being analyzed. They are just simply a way to describe our data that has been gathered. Descriptive statistics are very important because if we simply present our raw data, it would be very hard to visualize what the data is showing, especially if it's very long or it involves many patients or samples. So descriptive analysis or descriptive data or descriptive statistics therefore enables us to present the data in a more meaningful way, which allows simpler interpretation of our data. So give for example, if we had the results of 100 pieces of students' coursework, we may be interested in the overall performance of these students. We will be interested in the distribution or spread of the marks. Descriptive statistics allow us to do this. How to properly describe this data through statistics and graph is an important topic. Descriptive statistics will help us or give us information about our group of data. So from that 100 students, we can calculate the mean or the average of the scores, and then we can solve for standard deviation to know the dispersibility or the variation of the scores. And from that, it can provide us valuable information about the group of 100 students. The next type of statistical analysis is using inferential statistics. So this arises from the fact that sampling naturally occurs and sampling error also occur, and thus a sample is not expectedly to be perfect and it does not represent our population all the time. Therefore, inferential statistics is being conducted. So we have two ways how to conduct inferential statistics. It is using hypothesis testing and with the use of estimation. Now let's talk about population and parameters. So population, it refers to a group of individuals that we would like to know something about. And parameter, this is the characteristic of the population. For example, the proportion of the population that would respond to certain drug. And then another example is the association of risk factor and disease in a population. So it is very inconvenient if we will treat data from the big population. It can be done using our descriptive analysis using mean and standard deviation. But if we want to test for hypotheses, we need to get sample or a subset of a population because we need representations only from the population or from the data set that can be analyzed by our statistical tools. So statistic is a characteristic of the sample. For example, this is the observed proportion of the sample that responds to a treatment. Populations and sample. Aside from it is expensive, it is also time-consuming and impractical to compute or gather data from the very big population and compute for the interpretation of the entire data. So you just need samples for your inferential analysis and treat it with statistical tools. With that sample, by looking at that characteristic of our sample, or should we say by looking at the statistics, we can learn something about the characteristics of the population or the parameter. So in other words, by looking at the statistics, we can know the background or information from of our parameters.